800-932-4102. 800-932-4102. That's 800-932-4102.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app, 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
You never know what's going to really take hold on social media. And we put a lot of content out there. Ty Tracy 90, he's in with us today. Double duty, by the way. He was on the morning warm-up, and they navigated the technical hurdles there. The morning warm-up, wherever you listen to podcasts, if you want to go back and listen to Trey and Ty doing a fantastic job throughout the chaos. Are you okay, by the way, Ty? First of all, by the way, okay. Yes, detour.
Time to take a detour in the fast lane.
Like, you're normally a calm person.
Yes.
How do I say this? You're not like I am. That's probably meant as a compliment. At least most listeners would take it as a compliment.
Yes.
Because you stay level-headed in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Was there, you don't show this, but internally, was there a little more stress feeling for you today? Working with Trey to dissect the problems during the morning warm-up?
No. I was like, well, back to square one again. So time to do what we could do. If not, hey, we gotta rock it out till we make it. So
there's some people that would say this is a negative, but I'm gonna say this is a positive. Coach Brad Bradley must have really done a number on you because nothing phases you. I mean, that's part of the reason why you're here. And I've told you this. You can handle coaching from him. You probably handle a lot of stressful situations.
Yeah, that's why I just to be too calm. I'm like, okay, it's nothing new. So I feel like something's gonna happen this morning. So that's nothing new.
So when you're playing high school football for Heritage, Ty, back in the day,
yeah,
and I know you went to Virginia Union, but most of our listeners can relate more, with all due respect to Virginia Union, can relate to Heritage because it's in our own backyard.
Mm-hmm.
When you're there, did you envision that, like, those type of, let's be honest, sometimes butt chewings, but certainly fiery practices, game situations, did you envision that would prepare you for like this chaos in media?
Yes, it prepared me really well. So that's what I was like, y'all understand. So this is nothing new to me.
It's funny because like some people are not used to that at all. And like, first of all, I have a soft spot here in the fast lane for people that have been around sports or certainly have played sports because you're used to hard coaching. And obviously you are. And, again, I've mentioned this before, getting our usher on for a moment. When we hired Ty, one of the first calls I made, I'm like, wait a second, that's the same Tyron Tracy from Heritage. I'm like, well, let's call Coach Bradley, see what he has to say. If you can get that ringing endorsement, all right, I'll take something for it. And I know people have their feelings about Heritage, and they're one of the rivals in the Seminole District. So if you're a fan of Brookville or Glass or JF or Amherst or Liberty or Rustburg or LCA, you probably have different opinions of them. But we in the media often view these coaches through a different lens. You probably do as well now, Ty, now that you interview them for Jefferson Forest Cavalier football as we will get ready for our 12th season coming up. So I'd imagine your view of coaches has probably differed now that you're on this side of the aisle, and it's less like they're on one team, not on mine, as opposed to like, hey, mutually respectful filled relationships.
Oh yes, I just like make sure I keep everything neutral, same like, hey, bygones be bygones. I'm just trying to do my job. That's all I just want to do, man.
Bygones be bygones. In other words, don't hold my play on the field against me. But I bringing that up today here in the fast lane as Ty is with us is you never know what's going to catch fire on social media, whether it's Ty Tracy 90 or Fast Lane Ed Lane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Now, I had a feeling we get good reception from our in-studio interview on Tuesday with Liberty softball coach Dr. Dot Richardson. And, I don't even know what the metrics are going to look like for that. We'll get to that at the end of the month. We're like a week into it, less than. So it's a long way off to figuring that out. I mean, I'm throwing my hands up for those that are watching at Fast Lane Ed Lane in VTR in Sports on Facebook Live and YouTube. But we put the stuff out there, and TJ has done a great job of helping work with Trey to turn those into audiograms at Fast Lane Ed Lane. Basically, they're short sound bites for what you consume. And I have a feeling something was going to take off with Dr. Dot Richardson. But I will say this. When she chimed in on the Fast Lane on Tuesday, and if you want the full interview, Fast Lane Ed Lane, wherever you listen to podcasts, including Facebook Live and YouTube, I did not think this would go necessarily. I didn't view what Dr. Dot Richardson said. Gotta be careful with my words here. I didn't think what she said was going to be something where I view as earth-shattering news. Like, I don't view what Dr. Dot Richardson said in that capacity, and we'll play it for you in a moment. We'll pay off the tease. I view it more as I wouldn't call it reckless speculation, because plenty of Liberty fans, like many in college sports, are wondering, all right, what's going to happen when this next round of conference realignment starts? And again, I've been in the camp of, I don't think everybody that's currently in the Big Ten and currently in the SEC will be in the same tier and iteration. Because you can't tell me that the Big Ten really values schools like Northwestern the same way they value schools like Michigan and Ohio State. I mean, let's keep it real here.
I mean, I'll say I feel bad for the small conference schools the most, because like it's about to go down south. Now the NCAA is so focused on, and the committee are so focused on a big conference like the SEC, Big Ten. I mean, ACC, Big 12, that's like they like the outside cousins to the SEC and the Big Ten. So I just feel bad for the small conference schools like Conference USA, the American Conference, all that, because I feel like it's about to see. You usually don't know what's going to happen to them there. Now you see why some schools stay in the FCS level.
Yeah, I mean, you do see that. And I think for Liberty, one of the advantages they have over other programs is they have, well, let's be real here, they have a lot more
dollar bills, y'all.
As Kenny Powers reminds us, compared to a lot of other schools. And so when you're looking at programs now, that's one of the areas that's kind of a determinant, I would say, in terms of the outlook going forward. There's brand power and cachet plus financial resources, code for
dollar bills, y'all,
that goes into this. But you're also looking at tiers that I think will eventually exist in some form or fashion. And I think Liberty's actually better positioned than a lot of other schools are, because financially, and this is where I think Dr. Dot Richardson was really getting when we poked her and prodded her, not literally, of course, but figuratively speaking, to elaborate. And it doesn't take much, because she's more than happy to share her thoughts. And it was a great interview that we had with her Tuesday. But Dr. Dot Richardson mentioned that one of the things about Liberty that makes them uniquely positioned, including the success they've had in softball the last handful of years, continuing to make regionals, challenging teams like the UCLA regional a couple of years ago, Tennessee, Athens last year down at the University of Georgia, and of course, winning the regional at Texas A&M this year, is the fact that they're part of a school that has the financial resources where they view themselves. I don't view Liberty in this capacity. Let's be real here. But I get why Dr. Dot Richardson would say this, which is that Liberty, they have the resources to be viewed in the same light as a lot of power programs.
There's a lot of humility behind it, but I can tell you with my coaching staff, there's without a doubt, we are one of the top coaching staffs in the country. You know, we are, yes, Liberty is not in a Power 5 or Power 4, soon to be, who knows, Power 2, maybe, I don't know what it's going to end up looking like in college sports, but Liberty is right there ready to be a part of it.
They are. I think the one thing for Liberty is they're positioning themselves to want to be taken into consideration. I don't view Liberty as likely to land in the top tier of programs. Honestly, I think you're probably looking at like 20 to 30, maybe at most. Big brand programs. There are three obvious ones from the ACC: Clemson, Florida State, Miami. You can put a couple others in there, maybe Virginia Tech, NC State, North Carolina. You got a handful of them from the Big Ten. It's not everybody in that conference. Oregon, Washington, maybe USC, Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State. I think after that, there's kind of a drop off. Maybe throw in Nebraska. You know, you could kind of cherry pick another program or two there. SEC. I don't think it's everybody in that conference. If you're looking at football brand power and cachet, certainly Texas, Oklahoma, LSU, Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee. I think you kind of stop with that grouping. And so you're whittled down to a small number. And of course, we'll throw Notre Dame in there as one of theirs. Honestly, I don't think there's anybody in the Big 12 that historically from a brand cachet standpoint is on that level. Now, I think the bottom of the ACC is infinitely less valuable than the bottom of the Big 12 financially. Maybe Cincinnati might get thrown into that conversation, but for the most part, I think there's more in the ACC and others. Well, I'm looking at programs that are looking for spots afterwards. I'm looking in two areas. I'm looking for oil money, religious money. And Baylor checks both of those boxes. Maybe you could say SMU and TCU, Southern Methodist and Texas Christian University. But Baylor also an outstanding and very well-noted religious school. But Liberty's in that category. They're very well financed and resourced. I don't dispute what Dr. Dot Richardson said the other day in the Fast Lane at all. And it doesn't mean that Liberty's at the top of the list. I don't know if I go that far. But if you're looking at group of 5 schools that at least have a chance to be considered, I am looking at schools that are in a good spot financially. And maybe it's some other offshoot of what transpires afterwards. But Dr. Dodd Richardson, I don't go with the shocked part that she said, but I at least see some validity to her point that she was trying to sell us on Tuesday in the Fast Lane, which is Liberty being a Power 4, Power 2 caliber program, at least financially speaking.
Our staff is amazing. Our budget is crazy. It's awesome. We got amazing facilities. We have amazing backing from the administration, the President Costin as well, the board. So Liberty is really so well supported that even though we fall in that category of a non-Power 4, a lot of, I just am shocked at this point that Liberty is not in one of those.
See, I'm not shocked because, first of all, this is one thing that Dr. Dodd Richardson is not going to say, but we've said often in the Fast Lane, and that is, it's kind of the double-edged sword of, we'll just say, prior leadership at Liberty University. Read into that what you will. The double-edged sword is they put Liberty in a great spot financially, which they still have that major advantage right now. And you have to take the good, and that's the good, of prior leadership, with maybe the not so good, which is playing well in the sandbox with other people. Taking some flyers out there when it comes to people that were affiliated with Liberty University. Hugh Freeze was one of those, a reclamation project as a coach. Ian McCall was perceived to be that way. I don't view McCall in that category. I've had multiple people who've told me that it was not as much Ian McCall as it was. I know he's the athletic director. What happened at Baylor? When you're the athletic director, you have to answer for it. It comes with the territory. But that was much more of an Art Briles issue at Baylor with the sexual assault and the rape allegations and scandals and cases that took place down there. I don't mean to demean that, but I think it's much more from the people with whom I've spoken on Art Briles than it was on Ian McCall. Again, you're in charge. It happens under your watch. You got to answer to it. It is what it is. But if I'm looking at it from Liberty's standpoint, regardless of that national perception wise, by all accounts, McCall has been upstanding when he's been at Liberty. And again, I don't put as much on Baylor on him. But you have to get the idea of playing well in academia and in the sandbox. And I don't think that's the case now as far as the importance compared to what it used to be, but the ability to work well with others. And Ian McCall, one of his biggest assets is the ability to work well with others. But because of that, and the fact that, yes, the bad and the good of prior leadership is they made Liberty into a spot where they have a lot of resources. That means they're in a spot where if you're all of a sudden having schools that have to pay players a lot of money and continue to make that investment year over year, and it basically is a payroll expense on the university, some schools are going to be up the creek on that. But Liberty, they are probably not going to be up the creek on that. And that's one of the big assets. And I think that's where Dr. Dodd Richardson is going. I am not shocked that Liberty's not a Power 4 or Power 2 program. I get the sales job tie, but I can at least see her point that Liberty resource-wise can be in the discussion of having some value in the new iteration of college athletics when, frankly, there are plenty of Group of 5 programs, most of them, and maybe even some in the Power 4 where you might go, do they really have a fit or not?
Yeah, I mean, it just depends. Like you said, it just depends what group they're in. I mean, do I feel like they're probably like a Group 5 maybe? I'll say probably outside the door. Depends how things go on their end. That's the only thing.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it does depend on that. And that's one of the things for Liberty is how does it go overall on their end? But the appeal element, Dr. Dodd Richardson, I mean, look, this is what she said Tuesday in the Fast Lane. We were playing as much of it for full context, and the audiogram is up at Fastlane Ed Lane on the socials, and you can listen to the full interview. Fastlane Ed Lane, Facebook Live, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. But Dr. Dodd Richardson speculating on Liberty's future, and again, it may sound like a BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal, but I don't think she's totally off base.
I don't know if it becomes part of the East Division of the Big 12 or it becomes a part of the ACC. I don't know what might happen, whether Tier 1 develops, but Liberty is ready. They're ready for an invite. They're ready for whatever, God's plan ultimately is going to be.
I don't put Liberty in the whole Tier 1 branding. We kind of rattled off earlier the schools that we view in that category. And I think they're a smaller number than you would expect. But could they have a case as a Tier 2 program? Certainly a Tier 3, and whatever the iteration of college athletics is, which is probably, you're looking at capping it closer to like the 64 to 73 teams as opposed to whatever we're at, like 130 in 1AA and 1A FBS football. Yeah, I think that's where the case is at least compelling. And Liberty financially, again, we've laughed at times about how Liberty may have, their financial resources played a role in them being able to go independent in 1A FBS when you technically weren't able to make the jump if you didn't have a conference home. And Liberty's like, doesn't matter, we got the resources. That clearly is a statement. And that statement has continued to bear itself out from the investment that's made at Liberty athletically, to the academics, to the facilities and everything else. So that's the part where if I'm Liberty, I'm going to curse here, but it's where they get ready to have some hope if you're a Liberty fan, that there might be a home for you in the future.
Well, how about this? Will you see Liberty go back independent like Notre Dame has been doing this whole entire time?
No, I actually think they'd be more likely to go to one of these conferences. And it's,
But which conference you think they'll fit in the most? Because
if we're talking like just under the raw current construct, nothing changes with the SEC, nothing changes with the Big 10, the Big 12 and the ACC kind of create their own alliance. I can easily see Liberty kind of moving their way into some variation of that particular conference. Because I think the ACC right now, I look at it almost like there's a two-tiered structure within the ACC. The schools that have value, and I know we talked about the Magnificent Seven, Tech, UVA, State, Carolina, FSU, Clemson, and Miami, but I'd put Louisville in that category. They're clearly invested financially from a football standpoint. So you're at 8 schools right there. But then the others, in terms of what their football real brand appeal and cachet is, I don't know if there's a lot of meat left on the bone. Maybe Georgia Tech, Pitt, if you want to stretch it. Certainly not most of the other schools. SMU, I will also put in that category, by the way. I need to mention that when you've got boosters who are like, well, what's a couple $100 million when you're worth a few $1 billion, as far as SMU not taking a full ACC payout for like a decade. When you can afford that, yeah, you are in a different class financially.
But you got to think about someone who's like strong with their basketball program as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's very right to view it in that particular context. Meanwhile, we've had some feedback that's come in. We'll get to the Fast Five at 5-ish, by the way, after our chat with Brian Nolan of frontstretch.com. But before then, we've had some feedback that's come in on this and some of the other topics that we've gotten to. So we want to get to that quickly right now here in the Fast Lane.
Come join the chat or give us a piece of your mind. Trey Lyle VT and Fastlane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Now, it's time for fan feedback in the Fast Lane.
So it's interesting. We've had a couple of thoughts that have come in on this when it comes to the outlook of college athletics. One is from West Coast superfan Ben, and he chimed in, and this is still relevant now, but on the idea that, coming up this month, the Big Ten is going to be holding a 10K race. And we did a fast take about a month ago in Chicago from this, but it ties in right now. He laughed saying, yeah, the ACC 10K would take an extra stop in South Bend's tiny airport to touchdown Jesus in order to bow before it just before flying back to Charlotte. They'll let Notre Dame compete, but of course run their own course in the realm of the ACC. So when you're looking at future expansion, just keep that in mind.
Wow, that's I don't know what to say about that tweet. That's amazing right there. I just never thinking that like that, but hey,
I don't dispute it though.
Yeah, I was like, I mean, like I say, you'd be surprised when you see like people like, oh, okay, did not expect that, but hey, what can you say on that one?
The SEC, the ACC, and Notre Dame reminds me of I don't know if I ever say God rest his soul. I guess I technically should, but my uncle Bill, who 73 years or 72 years of age, and like 50 of them had drug problems and overdosed predictably. And by the way, somebody once said he should get like a medal of recognition for making it that far. But anyway, he had this woman that he was seeing one time. Sherry is what we'll call her name. And Sherry always seemed to think that she'd get the ring. And all of us, even like me in my like pre-puberty stage of teenagerdom, was like, dude, there's no way this is going to happen. And sure enough, it did not happen. That's kind of the ACC's dalliance with Notre Dame. They're like, the ACC to Notre Dame is like Sherry to my Uncle Bill. Oh, maybe they'll say yes. No, it's not going to happen. Get it out of your head. Meanwhile, speaking of the ACC and where things have gone, and particularly with Virginia in our conversations the last couple of days, Michael adds, you got it right, technically, about UVA's $6 billion endowment. It's actually $14.2 billion. Hey there. So I actually think, in all seriousness, that Carla Williams did about all that she could do to keep Brian O'Connor. There's some reporting that this was basically over before it ever got started, but she never speaks publicly, which is a problem. So she really needs Tony Elliott and Ryan Odom to do well in football and men's basketball this year. I look, by and large, I agree with what Michael has to say about that with Virginia, and appreciate the snarky comments. We're team snarky here in the Fast Lane, so the snarky comments about the UVA endowment are very well received by us, since team snarky is a good thing. I don't dispute that Carla did all that she could. I also don't dispute the idea that Brian O'Connor, at some point, if you're reportedly, and we can get into this more even tomorrow, but if you keep having to go back to the school and to the supporters to ask for the funding, it just gets draining over a long period of time to have to continue to go back and ask for resources again and again. And that's one where some of this is on Carla and again, I don't know if she briefed people behind closed doors. Hey, at some point this might come to a head and we may end up losing Brian O'Connor if this trend ends up continuing. I don't know enough about Carla's inner workings, but it goes to the point we said, and David Teal discussed yesterday in the Fast Lane, once again, Fast Lane, Ed Lane, Facebook Live, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts, to go back and check that out, or VTR in Sports on the socials as well. But Carla never speaking publicly, which is a problem. I absolutely agree with that. Look, you've got to put yourself out there to connect with your fan base, to explain what in the world is going on. Virginia Tech's athletic director, Whit Babcock's on the hot seat. They need to perform well in football this year. Pressure is clearly there, and we'll get to that with Bud Foster, legendary former defensive coordinator, today around 5:45. But, if Tony Elliott in football succeed, I think minimum they've got to get to 6 wins in a bowl game. Ideally, you'd love to have more than that, given 30 new players on the roster and the fact that you're reportedly investing money. And then Ryan Odom in men's basketball, $7 to $8 million in investments. I know it's the first year, so you're not thinking like Final Four or anything, but making the tournament, being a threat in the NCAA tournament, or at least going into it, that like, okay, I could see this team making the second week, the Sweet 16, the Elite Eight. If you're a Virginia fan, seeing at least that path, even if they flame out in the second round, if it's, hey, we barely got there, like some of the late Tony Bennett teams, it's a problem. If it's a, hey, we're in a good spot, but we just happen to draw the wrong matchup in the second round and we went out sooner, that stuff happens, especially for year one of a coach. But the pressure is bigger on Carla Williams, I would say, to Michael's point, because when you're not putting yourself out there publicly to basically vouch for and campaign for yourself and your programs, fans who, especially when they want answers, they're going to not give you the benefit of the doubt. And part of your job, and I think this is Carla's weakness, it seems, but you've got to be a salesperson, whether it's funding for money or funding for support, or support of your programs by, yay, go school, whatever it is. When you're not doing that, you're missing the opportunity.
And plus, you got to think about it. They lost all 3 of their coaches to big-time coaches, so that definitely puts a huge eye on them as well.
Indeed. I would absolutely concur with that. More feedback, by the way. I'm sure Mike will have more on Virginia baseball. Shannon has chimed in on the NBA playoffs. We'll get to that tomorrow in the Fast Lane. But, low-key, I've said this, and you might disagree. I think the series, Oklahoma City should roll over Indiana. I just think they're that much better of a team top to bottom.
It's, yes, deep roster. I mean, I think Indiana still can give a run for OKC's money. It's going to be really interesting for both teams, but I just say this about Indiana. Pascal Siakam and Tyrese Halliburton has to play great this whole series because they're the 2 main factors for Indiana to be winning these games. And
I would agree with that. I think the one thing that's a shame is I think the basketball quality has actually been good in the playoffs, but when you spend so much time hyping up the stars in the large markets, you miss the fact that like this is a really good Oklahoma City team. If they win this thing, especially in like 4 or 5 games, this will go down low key. I'm not going to say they're better than the 96 Bulls that won 72 games. Or the Warriors of a couple of years ago that won 73 but lost to LeBron in the finals. I'm not going to put them on that category. But you're talking about a 60-plus win team in the regular season that was really dominant, and they've dominated most everyone, especially when it's mattered in the postseason. That it's underappreciated, and I would love to see more credit given to Oklahoma City because of that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. I mean, a lot of people has not been talking about OKC or Indiana, small marketed teams. They so busy worried about big marketing. I'm like, this is probably be a good NBA Finals that everybody should watch because you got 2 small market teams. You got OKC's back since 2012. They've been to the NBA Finals.
Yes,
they had KD, and now you got Indiana making this stuff relevant as well. So I'm really excited about this series.
To feed off on your point, by the way, and we'll wrap up fan feedback with this. Thank you to our fam out there: Fast Lane, Ed Lane, Ty Tracy 90, TJ_Wilkerson 8, and Trey Law VT. Those are all of our socials here at the Virginia Talk Radio Network. Shannon chimed in: best NBA playoffs in 27 years. Look, I can't remember all of them that far back, so God bless you. I mean, I'm 39, so I do remember all of them, but not that depth. But this has been a really good playoffs. Shannon adds, I'm not sure I buy into the large market idea as much as in content metrics. This is excellent content this playoff, and while the numbers may not show it at the end, I think you capture a missed audience with Indiana, New York, and Oklahoma, Minnesota. People actually are interested in the storylines here, and we can have a new NBA title winner, which we will. The NBA is over-investing in stars, which is my point on this, which is overshadowed what I think Shannon's trying to make, which is this has actually been a really good, compelling playoffs if you just like good quality basketball to be played. And sometimes it's so big about the stars and the big brands that we lose sight of the fact that, like, I still just want to watch good basketball games. And we've largely gotten that. In Oklahoma City, derailing that, is it that different from when Golden State, they were at their peak and they're just steamrolling and obliterating everyone? I know Golden State's passing and shooting threes, and Oklahoma City is more, there's a lot of defense. They can beat you in a number of ways.
And especially old school basketball, taking it down, going to the paint stand, jacking up every three as possible.
I would agree with that. Meanwhile, when we return to the Fast Lane, if we don't get to the Fast Five at 5-ish today, don't worry. We've got a ton to address tomorrow in the Fast Lane, because when we return, we're going to use a good old Billy Madison sound effect.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
And we're going to get an explanation on that from Brian Nolan of FrontStretch.com. He didn't say it, but somebody else did. So we have to address next here in the Fast Lane.
Mark Dalton here with Terry Subaru. Love to drive? Then you'll love the all-new 2025 Subaru Wilderness family. These cars are built for adventure with symmetrical all-wheel drive, rugged capability, and legendary Subaru reliability. These stylish vehicles are ready for anything. Plus, every new Subaru we sell comes with an exclusive Terry Promise, a lifetime powertrain warranty. Visit us on Forest Road in Lynchburg or browse our inventory online 24/7 at terrysubaru.com. Terry Subaru. You'll love our cars.
When you're a discerning gun owner, you value knowledge and honesty. That's what you'll get at Big Boys Guns. With over a decade serving Central and Southwest Virginia, we make the complex easy. Our team experience can help with firearm transfers and 100% electronic process for silencer ownership that is done in-house. And when you know firearms, you know it's honest. That's why we offer accurate appraisals and low prices. Looking to buy, sell, or trade? We make it easy at Big Boys Guns on Route 460 in Blue Ridge.
When planning a summer trip, you probably have a checklist. So if you're driving, here's a safety checklist. If you see flashing lights on the side of the road, slow down and move over. If you're in an accident and can move off the road, try to find a safe spot like a parking lot. And if you're on the shoulder, it helps to have your flashers on. Just some friendly tips from our family at TROSLAW. We hope you never need us, but if you do, we're here to help at 777-HURT and TROSLAW.com.
Your home is more than just walls and windows. It's where life happens. And at Right Choice Construction, we get that. We're not just builders. We're fathers, mothers, neighbors, just like you. And every nail and every beam reflects our commitment to creating a place you're proud to live in. With Right Choice Construction, you're choosing a team that's been perfecting the art of building for years. So build with us, build with experience, build with quality, build with Right Choice.
Hi, I'm Matt with Fleet Feet Roanoke. I've enjoyed working with Ed Lane and the Virginia Talk Radio Network. But when they sold their Roanoke station, I was skeptical the partnership could still provide value. Months later, I'm thankful that Ed took the time to meet with me, discuss the right solutions, and a plan to invite his audience to Fleet Feet Roanoke. Now we're able to build a connection with that audience thanks to Ed's creativity. Stop by and see us at Fleet Feet Roanoke to learn more. We'd love to get to know you.
Email info@virginiatalkradionetwork.com to start growing your business.
Put some fun into your lunch or dinner. Come to Kodo Japanese for the show with fun hibachi-style Japanese prepared in front of you. Looking for calmer fun? Kodo Japanese serves Lynchburg's most delicious sushi, including the famed Vol crab rolls, plus drinks including specials on mimosas for brunch every Saturday and Sunday from noon to 3. Speaking of fun, everyone gets a free birthday dinner at Kodo, so put the fun into your meal at Kodo Japanese, Wards Road in Lynchburg.
Experience, reputation, growth. These are what make Brownstone Properties the area's most trusted property management company. With the recent addition of 15 new communities at Smith Mountain Lake, we have expanded our HOA portfolio to over 80 communities across the region. Combine these with over 2,500 residential units, and it's easy to see why our reputation and business continue to grow. Let our experience work for you. Visit us today at brownstoneproperties.com or 3720 Old Forest Road in Lynchburg.
Do you know what a cold climate heat pump is? They're a new generation of heat pumps from Tara Lee Mosley that provide substantially more heat than traditional heat pumps, even when it's 5 degrees outside. This means your electrical auxiliary heat runs less, saving you big time on your electric bill. And with the recent spikes in electric utility rates, that's crucial. Plus, these new heat pumps qualify you for a $2,000 federal tax credit. Contact Tara Lee Mosley for more info on the new cold climate heat pumps.
Car insurance rates are rising rapidly. That's no secret. It's because the cost of medical care for those who are injured and the repair and replacement cost of damaged vehicles is skyrocketing. But what can you do about it? Hi, this is Judd Gardner with Gardner Insurance Solutions in Lynchburg. We've been helping Central Virginia drivers purchase the coverage they need at affordable prices since 1993. Talk with us before you pay again. We represent numerous companies and have many cost-saving strategies. Gardner Insurance Solutions, 434-316-5433.
2468. Who does InsaneRadioDeals.com appreciate? Why, you, of course. Not just with that ridiculously tacky and bad jingle, but also with a great deal, like the Yard on 5th Street. Gift certificates worth $50 for you, $24.68. Get some of the best soul food in the Hill City at the Yard on 5th Street and enjoy the inside ambiance or sitting outside on the patio area. All thanks to InsaneRadioDeals.com.
Head to Lynchburg-Hillcats.com to lock in your tickets for the Lynchburg Hillcats this season. Now here's VTR in Sports.
Hi, this is Zach Mackey, the voice of Virginia Tech men's basketball. You're listening to The Fast Lane with Ed Lane and Trey Lyle. Join the chat at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.
So a little impromptu version of Votes of Confidence because, we nerded out on tennis yesterday with our chief vibes guy. By the way, Drew Dinsick, chief vibes guy for NBC Sports Bet the Edge, is joining us tomorrow as well as yesterday. But what's going on in Roland Garros? Time right now in our Votes of Confidence.
You know when a team is so confident, they give the coach a vote of confidence?
Clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose.
They lose! That's how you can treat these professional speculators in the fast lane.
Guaranteed. Guaranteed.
Now, it's time for your votes of confidence, where these so-called experts named Ed Lane and Trey Lyle give you their picks for what it's worth.
So, by the way, a big congratulations to our chief vibes guy, Drew Dinsick, because yesterday in the fast lane, he's the one who mentioned that he thought Aryna Sabalenka would not just win today, she did, but would win 2-1. She did just that. Now, she awaits Coco Gauff, and, it was not necessarily a bloodbath in the third set because Sabalenka rolled over Swiatek 6-love in the final set. But the first one went to a tiebreak. The second one, Iga won 6-4. So it was pretty hard fought until Sabalenka just kind of asserted herself in that final set. Now, she gets ready for Coco Gauff, who, to Coco's credit, just jumped early on Louis Poussin, the French phenom, the wild card entry who had made it to the final, which, if you're a road player, which basically Gauff is, American, playing a French woman at the French Open, and the French crowd getting very animated, you just have to suck the oxygen out of the venue. As much as it may not be aesthetically fun for fans who just want an exciting back and forth match, if you're Gauff, it was the smart way to play it. She deserved credit for that. So we'll preview Gauff Sabalenka with Drew Dinsick tomorrow for the French Open women's final. The men, meanwhile, taking place tomorrow, and we will have our thoughts on that as well. We'll recap the final, but I am tailing Drew Dinsick. I think Alcaraz just destroys Lorenzo Musetti. I think it's 3-0. I took the under 36.5 games in the match and under 37.5. There are two options that are out there. And on top of that, I took took Alcaraz to win by the 6.5 and the 7.5 game spread. I'm very heavily on Alcaraz tomorrow. Djokovic in center is the favorite. He should be, but there's a part of me that believes, and this is somewhat the eye test, Novak has played really well. And it's weird to say because Novak has been so dominant at the Australian Open, 14 titles on hard courts, 10 of them at Australian, 4 at the US Open. But I think his better surface to get center is actually Roland Garros because Novak knows how to muck it up and make it really ugly. And he can move around a guy like center and use the athleticism to his advantage. I probably lean Novak, but I really don't have a play in that one. Meanwhile, we have to pay it off. We used this soundbite a little bit earlier. So we'll give you the full version in just a moment. But first of all, we welcome Brian Nolan, frontstretch.com, here in the Fast Lane. Brian, it's great to be speaking with you. Well, you have the misfortune of seeing my ugly face. I have the pleasure of seeing your wonderful face. I hope it's an earshot. That's why I'm saying that here. I still, I've not done an InsaneRadioDeals.com fast take on this just yet, but it's going to be coming. Earlier this week, NASCAR's Jim France, the CEO and alleged co-owner of a team, but co-owner of NASCAR officially, was close to a deal, according to The Athletic, that would have funded a car in an upcoming Cup race before intense backlash led him to step away. Does it deserve this treatment?
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
Is that what somebody told him? The idea of that is one of the most insanely idiotic things people have ever heard. A bad look for NASCAR CEO and president to have the idea of fielding a team in a sport where your job as NASCAR is to make it as neutral as possible.
Well, first, Ed, it's awesome to see your face as well. But second off, I don't get it. I really don't on how narrow-minded and short-sighted NASCAR is. Like, in what aspect did they think this was a good idea? Two owners are suing NASCAR. You have what we have seen in IndyCar with Penske and all of that happening. Why now? Why couldn't they have just kicked the can down the road, maybe to like the Roval or something, or wait next year sometimes? I mean, it's just such a bad look when you have when one of the biggest names in all of sports and Michael Jordan suing NASCAR, and they're like, oh, well, let's throw some more into the pot. Let's murky it up a little bit. It's mind-boggling that they would even do it. It's mind-boggling that they would even think about it, and they're just so narrow-minded. And sure, I was reading a report from Racer and Kelly Crandall saying he just wanted to do it because he loves racing. And I mean, come on, we all know the real thing, and it is mind-boggling to see them even attempt this.
You know, first of all, you love racing. Dude, you're in charge of NASCAR. If you love racing, isn't that the indictment? That you're in charge of NASCAR? That's how you show you love racing.
Exactly. And like, I don't get what their intention was. And poor, obviously they own a couple of teams in IMSA and with Action Express. But like this poor guy, Jack, I forget his last name. I apologize. But I mean, he's kind of like caught in the crosshairs. I mean, I feel bad for the guy, and now his name is getting dragged through the mud that he was the guy that was going to be in quote unquote Jim France's car. Obviously, they don't think that, but I mean, it's like I said, just so narrow-minded.
Brian Nolan, the Brian Nolan on Twitter, frontstretch.com. He's got the front stretch. He's not on the Happy Hour podcast. That's Trey and Michael and Dalton and whatever collection of randomness they end up bringing out there. But Brian has Bringing the Heat, which just dropped earlier today. Again, got to get my usher on for a second here in the fast lane. I'm like halfway through it because I had to stop listening so I can like do my regular job, which is host the fast lane. But you bring up the narrow-mindedness of NASCAR in this situation, the idea of fielding a team. Am I off? This is where you can tell me if I'm out of, if I'm out of touch, just like NASCAR seems to be. If you really want something accomplished and you're in NASCAR, is it all that difficult to maybe instead of trying to field a team yourself, if you're the France family, just place a phone call to one of the organizations and say, hey, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, we'd really like for you to consider adding this driver to your stable?
Yeah, exactly. But here's the thing, Ed, and it kind of goes back to what we saw at the Indy 500 Coke 600. They don't care about anybody but themselves. I mean, they literally had to implement a new rule for Kyle Larson that he was going to give up all of his playoff points if he could not run the Coke 600, and that was indefinite. That was in the big part on if he didn't wreck, that is, if Kyle Larson was going to have to step out of the car with like 30 or 40 laps to go due to the rain delay. I mean, they don't care about any other series. They don't care about any other organization to an extent, I should say. But I mean, like, all they had to do was they could have just called Spire and said, hey, we have this guy, Jack Aiken, and can you put him in a car? We're not going to associate our name with us. But I mean, can you do us a solid? That's all they had to do. And honestly, kudos Jeff Gluck and Jordan Bianchi of The Athletic for doing some in-depth reporting and investigating, because I mean, this deal stopped when they started investigating it. So I mean, if they didn't investigate it, this probably would have continued to happen, and Jack Aiken would have made his start in Sonoma under a Spire Motorsports car.
Not a good look, especially in a sport like NASCAR where there are conspiracy theories to begin with. And I generally don't buy into a lot of those, but you're not exactly doing anything to extinguish those flames if you're NASCAR when you might be funding a team essentially in NASCAR. Meanwhile, speaking of NASCAR, that was a loss for them. A win is what happened today with the vacating of the lower courts injunction. That means NASCAR can now view 23XI and Front Row Motorsports as non-chartered open teams this year. Both of those organizations field 3 cars each in the series this year, so a total of 6 cars in 2025. How big of a win is this for NASCAR, or is this more just a stay until 2026?
You know, I was talking with my boss, Tom Bowles, about this in a text message, and he said it was good for 23XI. I don't see that on anything, and I think this is a win for NASCAR. I mean, obviously that what the 23XI and Front Row teams can do, they can file a petition for rehearing, so they can do it within 14 days. But if they don't do that, that means they're going to become open teams. And if open teams, if for some weird reason, there's more than 40 cars, you can see Tyler Reddick, Bubba Wallace, Noah Gragson, Zane Smith, among others, get failed to qualify. But the bigger picture is, Ed, these open teams get way less of the money every single race. So you're going to have to bring more and more money to the table, more and more money via sponsorship. And sure, you have a lot of millions of dollars from Bob Jenkins and Michael Jordan. But I mean, they're just making it harder and harder and harder. Obviously, I would guess that they will do a rehearing. Obviously, if they don't, it's going to become effective on June 26th, 2 days before the Atlanta race. So if they don't do it, 2 days before the Atlanta race, the 23, the 45, the 35, and then all the Front Row cars, they're going to be open cars, and they're going to get way less money than the other cars. But according to our stat guy, Steven Stump, that means 16% of the charters in the Cup Series are going to be open. That is a massive amount of charters that are going to be open. It's going to be even more rocky, I think, as we get to the December 1st trial date.
Brian, I'm not going to call Atlanta its new name because they're not
don't do it.
in the Fast Lane. I'm petulant like that. I mean, if that company wants to sponsor the Fast Lane or the Virginia Talk Radio Network, I'll mention their name all day long. But until then, we're just going to call it Atlanta because we're petulant like that. Yeah, like the thumbs up here from Brian Nolan. We'll wrap it up on this, Brian. Speaking of thumbs up, NASCAR this weekend, they head to Michigan. Does the positive momentum, maybe not total viewership because it's been down with Amazon Prime, but younger viewership has been increased the last couple of weeks because of Amazon Prime. Does that momentum continue for NASCAR?
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, this is the only 2-mile track in NASCAR. Obviously, rest in peace to Auto Club, to Fontana. That's not there anymore. But I mean, Michigan, it provides great racing. We fingers crossed that there's no rain delays. Obviously, past few years there has been some rain that has fallen in Brooklyn, Michigan area. So I think with Amazon, it's kind of rejuvenated the social media and the keyboard justice warriors out there, because I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen nothing but compliments on Twitter and X, and especially today, you don't see a lot of those, Ed. But I mean, what they're doing with the pre-race, you have Dale Jr. in the booth, Adam Alexander, one of my good friends, little shameless plug there. But I mean, and then the post-race, I mean, it's like an hour-long post-race, and NASCAR fans have been just clamoring for a extended post-race, and they're finally getting it. So even though the ratings are a little bit down, it matters the 18 to 49 age range of viewership. So I think if that continues to get higher and higher, I think NASCAR is going to be totally content with the rating that they're getting.
It's a trade-off, and that's really where a lot of things are. And I'm curious this Sunday, because it's not a night race like Nashville this past weekend or the Coke 600 before that. It's an afternoon race, which I actually love. I love listening to them on the radio, but I'm a weird nerd like that. Or actually, by radio, I mean radio stream on my mobile phone, because that's how it's consumed. But anyway, Brian, you didn't come for that. You came so that we could ask you questions, and we got what we wanted, which is great insight that you always share on Bringing the Heat with Brian Nolan that just dropped today, and frontstretch.com. Thank you for joining us in the Fast Lane and bringing some sanity that NASCAR much needed.
I try my best, Ed. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure, and we'll talk with you soon. Thanks, guys.
We look forward to it. Brian Nolan with us here in the Fast Lane. When we return from one royalty to another, Bud Foster, legendary former Virginia Tech Hokies defensive coordinator and host of Foster and Friends, got a new cigar line dropping. We'll ask him about that when we return here in the Fast Lane on the VTR and Sports app.
Get more at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your premier used car dealer serving Southwest Virginia and surrounding areas for over 50 years. With more selection, more value, and more finance options. Plus, your trade is worth more. Get the best selection with more Hondas, more Hyundais, all your favorite makes and models. Over 900 used vehicles in stock now. That's way more than any other dealer in the area. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got the volume all in one location on the Motor Mile. The Used Car Superstore is your one stop for cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Many have miles in the teens, remaining factory warranties, and some are even local one-owner vehicles. Plus, Sheeler owns the finance company. Getting approved for credit is easy on the Motor Mile with financing options for every budget. We finance your future, not your past. You're a valued customer and not just a number on the Motor Mile. Get more with straightforward pricing and more inventory arriving daily. Over 900 vehicles on the lot ready to choose from. The Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
Big Boys Guns can thankfully say we serve Central and Southwest Virginia as we've done for over a decade. We've learned some people know exactly what they want, while some prefer a helping hand. That's why our staff won't judge your knowledge. We're just excited to greet you and help you in finding that perfect firearm or accessory, because everyone is at a different stage of responsible gun ownership. Our advice is free, and we even have concealed carry classes. When you're ready for responsible gun ownership, come see us. Big Boys Guns on Route 460 in Blue Ridge.
Car insurance rates are rising rapidly. That's no secret. It's because the cost of medical care for those who are injured and the repair and replacement cost of damaged vehicles is skyrocketing. But what can you do about it? Hi, this is Judd Gardner with Gardner Insurance Solutions in Lynchburg. We've been helping Central Virginia drivers purchase the coverage they need at affordable prices since 1993. Talk with us before you pay again. We represent numerous companies and have many cost-saving strategies. Gardner Insurance Solutions, 434-316-5433.
Have you looked at your home's exterior lately? Do you see faded siding, paint peeling, and wood rotting? Windows that are impossible to open and close and gutters falling off? Call Collins Siding and Windows to transform your home's exterior and save you money on energy costs. Dreaming of a new porch or sunroom? Collins can do that too. Since 1989, Collins Siding and Windows has been transforming homes in Central Virginia. Roofs, windows, siding, gutters, porches, decks, and sunrooms. They can do it all. Call Collins Siding and Windows today, 434-525-6307.
We're here with Colt from We Fix Stupid Computers. Colt, to go along with your residential or individual walk-in services that you offer, you also do a lot of business IT support. How about you discuss that, and what specifically do you do to help businesses in the area?
We see a lot of that. Small to medium-sized businesses, they still have their IT projects. They still need resources to help them within their office and for remote users. And so we'll step in and fill in the gap where we do a lot of projects for them, help them manage their resources, their budgets, and get their technology under control.
Colt, how can these people reach out to you to assess their IT needs?
Call us. Our number is 434-525-8590. Our website, wefixstupidcomputers.com. We're on Facebook. And our office is here locally, 14690 Forest Road, right next to Scott's Cabinet on 221.
Thursday on the morning warm-up, Ty and I go deep into the outlook as an athletic department for both UVA and Virginia Tech. Gave our thoughts on the recent coaching changes, the level of investment among the major programs, and much more. If you missed it, the morning warm-up with Trey Lyle, wherever you get your podcast. Friday, we'll have Friday Hypothetical, Today in Sports History, and much more. So tune into the morning warm-up, weekday morning, 7 to 8 a.m. on VTRN Sports, 93.3 FM, 1320 a.m., and on the VTRN Sports app.
Hi, this is Bill Roth, voice of Virginia Tech football. You're listening to The Fast Lane with Ed Lane and Trey Lyle. Join the chat at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.
Purpose, grateful. Those are some of the adjectives that come out, and we bring it up here in the Fast Lane because I was hearing some folks talking about this earlier about when you transition out of something that's hyper competitive, whether it's playing a sport or coaching, and how fulfilling yourself and finding that purpose can be a real challenge, which is where we get to welcome in our next guest, Bud Foster, former Virginia Tech defensive coordinator. He has transitioned to Foster and Friends, which you hear every single Saturday, 9 to 10 a.m. right here on the VTRN Sports app and 93.3 FM here in Lynchburg. Ask that smart speaker, open VTR in sports as well. But between that, of course, helping as a consultant for Virginia Tech football, the Lunch Pail Defense Foundation. Bud, how grateful. First of all, Bud, we appreciate your time in the Fast Lane. We will get to your big day tomorrow in just a moment. But big picture, how grateful are you that you had a plan and you've been able to execute a plan that's given you a level of purpose that has also helped give others purpose since you've been a defensive coordinator at Virginia Tech?
Yeah, well, number one, Ed, hey, thanks for having me back on the show. I always look forward to this. When you reach out to me, I get excited, man. I can tell you that. So, no, I've been blessed to be at one place for 33 years, and then to be able to, from a coaching standpoint, but now to be able to continue to be a part of the university and of the department and be around the program for the last 6 seasons, it's been really incredible. I can't thank Whit Babcock and Dr. Sands enough for seeing that I bring some value to the university and to the department. So I'm extremely grateful for that. But with that, as you said, I've been able to get involved in a lot of activities and give back and feel good situations and win for me and no pun intended with our lunch pail and all that, but and the Win vodka and as we're going to talk about the next project, Win cigars, but to be able to be involved in the community, give back to the community, particularly at a place that into a place that in an area that I've spent my whole adult life here and been fortunate to raise my children and people have been so kind and gracious to us during our time here and it feels good to be able to give back and to be a part of this New River Valley. That's fun. Today I was actually they had the changing of the guard at the New River munitions plant at Radford. And so that was pretty cool to be a part of that and see that, but, also represent Virginia Tech and the area and let everybody know how appreciative we are of what they do as well.
Bud Foster with us here in the Fast Lane. Of course, the big day is tomorrow from 1 to 4 p.m., Friday, June 6th. Blacksburg Pipe and Tobacco on North Main Street in Blacksburg, where you'll have a chance to purchase some of the new limited LPD cigars, limited edition LPD cigars, and proceeds benefit the Lunch Pail Defense Foundation, which kind of ties back into what we were discussing, Bud, raising money for scholarships for local students. How much of all this is tied back together? And maybe what you saw as a coach, the value that scholarships and opportunities for kids from high school can really give them in helping them find their purpose, not just in football, but beyond the gridiron as well.
Well, yes, and thank you for bringing up my foundation because that's what it's all about. Is what we did. We were fortunate to give $150,000 last year to 3 groups that all involves young people in the New River Valley and the Roanoke Valley, and that's something that I'm extremely proud of. But something I felt is extremely important. The future, the youth is our future, and whether it's on the playing field, and so many more people don't get on the playing field that do, but there's so many other opportunities and we're just creating opportunities for young people to maybe have something in front of them that they wouldn't be able to do if they didn't have somebody helping. So I'm excited about that. And yes, I'm very fortunate that my good friend Joe Nazare at Blacksburg Pipe and Tobacco reached out to me and I like to smoke a cigar every now and again and he approached me with this idea of Win cigar. So, hey, it's how can you not enjoy a victory without your Win cigar? We've already got our slogan getting ready to come out there, but no, it's going to be a top quality cigar. I've smoked a couple of them and it's a Nicaraguan cigar and we've got a Robusto and a Toro. We've got 2 50 boxes with each. So we've got 2,000 cigars. I think he's going to sell some individually, but we're also going to sell them by the box. And like you said, the proceeds will go to the foundation. And they're going to go fast, but it's a top quality cigar. If there's a cigar aficionado, out there, this is something you need to have in your humidor. And I promise you'll enjoy the stick. But no, I'm so appreciative of Joe to reach out and and so tomorrow I'm going to be at his store on Main Street. It's right next, a couple doors down from PK's. And from 1 to 4, I'm going to be signing autographs, and hopefully we're going to sell several boxes and sticks of Wynn cigars.
Blacksburg Pipe and Tobacco, the specific location on North Main Street in Blacksburg, Friday, June 6th, that's tomorrow, 1 to 4 p.m. Although you can show up at noon and hang out, and then Bud will be ready for you at 1 o'clock. So it's not a bad idea to show up early, is it?
Well, Joe, he's got such a great business, and he's been a good friend for a long, long time. And when he approached me about this, it was like I was so excited and just very appreciative, and more than anything, that he had that kind of interest in what we were doing from a local standpoint. I mean, that's really kind of why he's jumping on board. Is it's another way that he feels like he can give back to the community, and we can do it together. And so it'll be it should be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow and a lot of people showing up. And it ties into, we have a Virginia Tech alumni weekend, so there'll be a bunch of activities tomorrow around campus, and then there's going to be several on Saturday and Sunday. So I think we'll have a chance to get some traffic through Blacksburg Pipe and Tobacco the next couple days.
It's a real cool thing that's going on, and we're discussing it on W227BG Timberlake, WVGM AM Lynchburg, WMNA Gretna Danville Southside, Fastlane, Ed Lane, and VTR in Sports, Facebook Live, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. But the other thing about this, sometimes you get to these meet and greet opportunities, and it's kind of a real quick ushering people in and ushering people out. You're on the opposite end. You're looking to greet fans. You're signing autographs, including memorabilia. You've kind of opened this event up at Blacksburg Pipe and Tobacco tomorrow to where fans can really come and not just celebrate the cigar that you have and the fact that, purchases go to the Lunch Pail Defense Foundation, but even more so a chance to just interact and kind of, build on what's been a staple for you and for Virginia Tech, which is community.
Right. And I'm glad you said that, because I've been blessed to be here. This is year 39, Ed, and not many folks in any business have this opportunity. And I am so fortunate that I've got to know a lot of people. A lot of people have helped my career through, different resources. Maybe it's through fundraising and donating to the, give us the opportunity to do the things that we do through their kindness, and I will always take, and my wife knows this, I will always make time for people. I'm not going to rush and usher them through in a hurry. They've been important to me in my life, and I'm going to make sure that I know that they're important, to me. And I want to thank them for that. This gives me a great opportunity to thank people for being so supportive of our time here. Like I said, we couldn't do what we do without their support and their continued support. I mean, this program I'm going to go away a lot sooner than the program will, but I'm so appreciative of the support, the kindness, and it's just an opportunity for me to say thank you, and I'm going to do that, and I'll take my time and get to know people and spend quality time with them.
You mentioned that your wife is used to this. So when she wants some peace and quiet at the house, does she just send you out to the store knowing that even if it's just to pick up a couple of items, it might be like an hour and a half and she's going to get a chance to catch her breath?
Yes, she will. And but I tell you, when we first started dating, because we got married 6 years ago, and but I was recruiting Dax Hollyfield, and so we were in Charlotte. She came down to see me because I was on the road recruiting, and she hadn't seen me in several days, and she came down, and we were sitting in a restaurant, and actually somebody came up to me and wanted an autograph. And next thing you know, it opened up a can of worms. You're thinking that you're in Charlotte and, you're in Carolina country or North, NC State or Duke or whatever it may be. But there was a host of Hokies down there. And so she was a little miffed, but I said, hon, I'm going to make sure these people have been so supportive of me. But more importantly, if I was that guy that didn't take a minute and show a minute of kindness and appreciation, then I wouldn't be the guy that you'd be one hanging with. So I kind of had to drop the mic on that call right there, but she understands, and she's the one willing to take pictures and do all the things, and she understands it as much as anybody. So I'm very fortunate to have a wife that understands, what the people have meant for our success, but also that I'm extremely appreciative. I'm going to take the time to spend with folks.
But that response is a perfect response. How many years of recruiting did it get you to the point where you're like, all right, I know how to handle this situation now with the right comeback?
Hey, there's a lot of battles, Ed. There's a lot of battles along the way. And this was one I wanted to win, but I was fighting. It was an uphill fight. And so that I think that changed the tide in my direction. So, it's been a blissful and happy 6 years. I can tell you that. I've been the happiest in my life. So, but that was a true story.
As somebody who's married, I can mention as well and agree with you. There are a lot of battles, and especially when you're the husband, more of them are uphill than downhill, we should say.
Yeah, you learn how to say yes, dear, and then just, and move forward. That's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with that. We are a team. We're both hard-headed. My wife's really involved in the community here. She's on city council in Radford and has been on school board and has really been involved in the community. And she's the powerhouse right now in the family. And I'm just I just tag along and just support her like she has supported me.
Bud Foster with us in the fast lane. Bud, I was going to ask you, and we won't get to it today because we want to get into more just football X's and O's next time. But I have a new note to add for the next time we speak, which is tips for being in a relationship where both people are very assertive and opinionated. I'm trying to choose my words carefully here in case my wife is listening live or at Fast Lane, Ed Lane. Bud, thank you for your time today in the fast lane. Congratulations on the event tomorrow, Friday, June 6th. 1 to 4 p.m. at Blacksburg Pipe and Tobacco on North Main Street in Blacksburg. And of course, proceeds from buying either the Robusto or the Toro cigars will go back into the Lunch Pail Defense Foundation, which raises money for scholarships. But congratulations on getting a new line established. We appreciate your time going a little bit longer today in the fast lane. And we'd love to catch up again in a few weeks to talk some more X's and O's football related stuff.
Well, thank you, Ed. Every time, like I said, I appreciate you having me on the air, and I look forward to the next time, and you all have a great weekend, okay?
Indeed. Bud Foster with us here in the fast lane. We do love catching up with him. We'll get with him because I had also on my notes Jarrett Ferguson. Bud Foster was there when Ferguson from Stanton River was there, and now Ferguson's the strength and conditioning coach. So there's an interesting angle that we will probe going in the future. That's called a tease, although we don't know when we're going to pay it off. So it's what a cliffhanger we're providing today in the fast lane. In the meantime, thank you to Ty for hanging out a little bit later today. Thank you, just you, for listening however you do and consuming it. Thanks to Bud Foster and Brian Nolan for their time. Different degrees of royalty, of course, here in the fast lane. We're back tomorrow afternoon. Maybe Dave Walls, Chief Vibes guy Drew Dinsick on the French Open and the finals coming up. All of that still to come. Thank you for joining us today. Now on to VSiN's Make It Rain with Adam Shine.
Absolutely remarkable to watch, and I could not get enough. It was just fantastic here from an Edmonton perspective, a game perspective.